Hi, I'm Hazel. It is almost Saturday, so it's time for another vlog. This week, today, right now actually, there are the EU regionals of the WoW Arena tournament happening. I've got them up on my other monitor. They're muted so I can make the vlog, but I'm keeping an eye on it. They're having technical difficulties right now, which is why I have time to do this, but I don't want to miss anything. They've been so exciting so far. They've had a lot of technical issues so far, actually. It's been kind of disappointing. Every time I watch a WoW Arena tournament, I think this time they can get a LAN tournament running smoothly, so no players are disconnecting, no computers are malfunctioning, no headsets are turning off, this time they'll figure it out. And every single time something goes horribly wrong and it ends up taking hours longer than it should. So maybe this is not the time. They've already had some huge technical difficulties. They've already had to switch at Minpoike's computer. Hopefully they smooth it out from here, but who knows. In any rate, it's still a great tournament to watch. I've seen some really cool gameplay so far, and I'm really excited just to see sort of how things play out now in the new game, because we're playing on Legion now. The qualifiers for this tournament was played on the WoD patch, and we're playing on a completely new expansion's worth of changes between the qualifiers and the actual regionals. So I'm really interested to see what kind of comps are dominant, what kind of specs turn out to be more popular, and kind of how everybody plays together, because I haven't had a whole lot of time. I haven't had any time for Arena so far in Legion, and I really do want to get into it at some point. So it's nice to kind of be able to sit back and watch the really good people play and sort of see what's up. So I'm really hoping that Resto Druids do well. And Poike has been he has played some really good games so far. I just want them, I don't need them to be the best ever. I just want to have a couple of good comps that I can play, so people aren't harassing me to go play a Mistweaver or something, because I just want to be a Resto Druid. I just want to grow some flowers and throw some leaves at people, and that's just my thing. So hopefully I'll be able to do that. For the first time, they actually have an in-game title for watching this WoW Arena stream. So the championship, the stream, it started this morning at 8 a.m. Pacific. It was, I believe, 5 p.m. Central European Summer Time? Question mark? 5 or 6. I don't really understand how time works. But it was 8 a.m. this morning for me, and it'll be going on for some amount of time. I believe if you connect your Battle.net account to your Twitch account, and WoW made a post that has a direct link right to the setting that you need. You go into your Twitch account settings, you go to the connections, you connect your Battle.net account to your Twitch account, and then you tune into the stream. And that's going to trigger, once the stream ends, presumably, a new title for your Battle.net account. You'll be able to be a Patron of War is the title. So that's the first time they've done something like that. It's pretty cool, but it's just interesting. They've never done anything like that before. It's interesting to see them condoning one streaming service like that. They've always been streaming events on Twitch, but it's interesting that you actually have to link your account in order to get this title. But I also don't know how else they would have done that, so that's kind of cool. And yeah, I'm really excited to see how the rest of the tournament pans out. I'm very excited for the North American regionals once those roll around, because I know more names from there. The Europeans, they play phenomenally, and there's a couple of stars that we've heard about, but you don't see them. Well, you didn't used to see them in the stream as much. They stream more now. But, oh man, I love watching Arena. It always gets me pumped up to play Arena. I'm really hoping that watching this tournament just makes me want to do it, and then maybe I'll just magically find some time and finish my Honor Talent grind and play some games. I don't need to be a Gladiator first season. That is shockingly unlikely. But I would like to get back into my Duelist range that I was at before. Get back at least to the 2200-ish range, assuming that I find time to, figure out what's up. So we'll see. But yeah, really fun tournament to watch. I recommend you tune into that, especially if you want the title. And yeah, so what else? Big thanks to all of the new patrons that have pledged to support me. We did the first battle pet draw this morning. A winner has been chosen. A pet has been set out. So congrats to that guy. Thank you all so much for participating. There will be another draw, of course. It's a monthly thing. It recurs. Every month on the 1st of the month. We did a little early this month because I was just really excited. But the next one will be on November the 1st, which is a Tuesday, and we'll be drawing another winner and sending out another pet. So thank you very much for that. And because we had all these new patrons, we're actually over the $100 goal that I set for doing weekly live streams. So I'm going to be live streaming every Friday, and I'm going to do the first one today. So this afternoon, 3 p.m. Pacific to 5 p.m. Pacific is the time I've kind of chunked out for that. And I'm going to be live streaming on YouTube, so not on Twitch. My Twitch channel will not have it. It won't be up there. It'll be on YouTube. You should be able, if you go to my YouTube page, you should be able to get there pretty easily. Or I think you can go to gaming.youtube.com too. I don't know. I'll tweet a link once I'm up. But yeah, 3 to 5 p.m. this afternoon, Pacific time, West Coast time. So if you are East Coast America, I believe that makes it, what, 6 to 9? Something like that. But yeah, we're going to hang out. We're going to chat. I'm probably going to try and catch up. I'm really excited to have this weekly stream time just as a good excuse to sit down and play some WoW, because I've been so busy making videos and getting ready for Raid and just working on all of this stuff that I've gotten so behind And wow, an example, I had a quest that I'm pretty sure I got from an order hall mission, or maybe it was just a weekly raid quest. In any case, I had a quest. It was from an order hall mission to go kill Il'gynoth to get a cache of loot from him. And I got the quest, and I went and killed Il'gynoth, and I can't turn it in because the NPC I need to turn it into in my class hall isn't there. And I'm like 85% sure it's because I haven't finished the Illidan quest line that's part of your class order hall campaign. You're like messing around in Val'sharah. I never finished that because somebody mentioned to me it took a while and it was kind of annoying. And I just haven't had time to sit down and do that yet. So now I'm stuck in a position where I can't turn in a bunch of quests in my order hall because the dude's not there because I need to go finish some craft for him. So, oh man, maybe we'll do that today. I'm just really excited to have that time to sit down and catch up with you. I haven't streamed in a long time, so I feel like I'm kind of ready to do that again for a little bit and catch up on some WoW. So yeah, 3 p.m. this afternoon. What else happened this week? My guild, we finished our raid nights. We raid Wednesday, Thursday night. So last night was our progression raid night. We did a re-clear of normal. We went 7-7 normal again on Wednesday. And then last night, which is Thursday, it was our heroic progression raid night, which is always kind of fun and kind of tense. So we'd already killed Nith on first week, so we got Nithender down again, and that was fine. We one-shot her. And then we made a progression kill on Il'gynoth, which was not as hard as I thought. It was definitely a lot harder than it was on normal. But we cleaned up our strategy a lot, and I feel like everybody played really well, and we eventually got Il'gynoth down. The first time we almost killed him was because in the second in phase where you go in the tree to kill the eye or the heart or whatever, DBM started counting down and telling everybody to get out halfway through his final torpor cast for whatever reason. And none of us were paying attention to the cast bar. We just heard DBM going 10, 9, and we all ran out of the tree. We all get out of the tree and then we go, oh no. We have like 15 more seconds. We run back in the tree and try and finish it, but he kills us all at like 2% because the fight ends at that point. And if we had stayed in the tree, we probably would have killed him, but it's fine because we got it the next time when we ignored the faulty DBM warnings. So heads up to anybody doing Il'gynoth with DBM. They may have fixed it by now. I hope they fix it soon, but yeah. On the torpor phase, so the second inside the tree phase, the counter goes off just a little bit early. Oh, man. And then we killed Ursoc. We progressed on Heroic Ursoc. We killed Heroic Ursoc last night, and that was what we spent most of our time on. I believe we were done with Il'gynoth by, like, halfway through the raid time, so we spent probably at least an hour, hour and a half on Ursoc. And, man, that was tough. Heroic Ursoc is so much harder than normal Ursoc. Normal Ursoc just kind of fell over. It was a very easy strategy to learn, and it wasn't very difficult to execute. Everybody just kind of stood there and did their thing and soaked the charges, and it was done. But on Heroic, there's so much movement, and it's just a single target fight with a lot of movement, and it's a DPS check, so you need to have a lot of damage out of each and every one of your raiders. And for me, I was really worried they were going to bench me because the cutoff that they set was about, they wanted 200k, approximately. And they wanted everybody to be at or above 200k for that kill, otherwise they were going to start benching people. And that's normally pretty feasible, but I am a Shadow Priest, so single target's not really my jam right now. I'm crit geared, which puts me more towards AoE. Crit gives you more vampiric ghost apparition, or shadowy apparitions, which are better on multiple targets. I have 2 trinkets that are AoE and no trinkets that are single target, so both of my trinkets are AoE trinkets, and neither of them are very good. My artifact relics also buff AoE talents. And then I don't have Mass Hysteria yet because I'm dumb and I didn't take the right path and I didn't quite get my second artifact Golden Dragon slot before raid. So basically, my entire setup was just garbage for single target. And on top of that, you're moving the whole time, and moving is very hard for Shadow Priest. So I'm trying to move in between globals and get my casts off and try and make sure that my void forms will line up with my void torrents. I can be void torrenting on cooldown and try and do as much damage as I can. And I was squeaking at like 150k, and I'm like, oh no, they're gonna bench me for progression. And while I understand that choice, like I totally get that if somebody's not doing enough damage, you just stick on the bench until they're doing more damage because you need that damage to progress. I'd never been in that position myself before where I was trying my very hardest and I just couldn't get the damage out. And it was okay because eventually they benched a couple people that were a little bit lower than me on the ladder, and then what happened was we started pulling out all of the stops. We did a cauldron for like the new flasks. We all got new food going. We all got augment runes going. We all got expensive potions going. And for anybody that's not rating so far, consumables right now are expensive as hell. They're so much gold. So people aren't really using these new potions and these new flasks because it's like 900 gold a potion nobody wants to be spending almost 2,000 gold every single failed pull of a boss fight, so nobody was popping these potions, but we pulled everything out for that last one. And I switched to Surrender to Madness. I hadn't been using Surrender to Madness on that boss yet because I don't have Mass Hysteria, and Mass Hysteria is very important to Surrender to Madness. It's a big part of your damage in Surrender to Madness, but I switched to it because I was having to delay my Void forms anyway, so Void Lord wasn't really doing much for me. I switched to Surrender to Madness, we popped out all of the consumables, and I managed to squeak out like 212k on, on the single target moving, and then we killed it, and it was just the best feeling ever. And while I may have been very much carried by some very expensive consumables, I tried really hard, and I know I'm going to do better next week because I'll have that second golden dragon trait. So I'll definitely have Mass Hysteria, and I might try and run some dungeons or mythics or something to try and get some kind of better trinket or relics because they're just killing me. I do find a multi-target. I did great on Il'gynoth, but single target movement is just like awful for Shadow Priest, or at least for me and in my setup. Another one of our priests was actually gearing haste. He had haste enchants, and he did quite a bit better. So it's hard to say. Anyways, yeah. So raid was really fun. I'm really excited for next week. I don't know what our next boss is. I want to say dragons, but maybe they'll have us do spider next. But in any case, I'm perfectly happy just killing those 3 for a week or 2 because all of my good loot is from Nithender and Il'gynoth, or at least most of my early good loot is from Nithender and Il'gynoth. I need myself a plague hive, a swarming plague hive trinket. That would be a lot better. Yeah, raid was fun. Speaking of raids that I was not a part of, the Mythic race. Every time a new raid tier comes out, when the Mythics first launch, there's a big worldwide exciting race where guilds are trying to be the world's first guild to kill Mythic Xavius, I guess in this case. They want to be the first person to clear the very hardest content. And in Highmaul, so back in WoD, that race took like weeks. I feel like it took more than one reset because Imperator Margok was just rough. And people didn't have enough gear, and they were just trying so hard, and it was just really rough. This time around, Mythic Xavius went down on the first day. Like, the whole raid just folded right away. The Mythic race was over in one day. And some people are going to have some different feelings about that. So I have thought about it a lot. And while your first instinct when you hear that the Mythic race was just over immediately is, well, that's kind of sad. Why are they making WoW so casual? Why is the hardest content just completely consumed in the first day? But then I started thinking about it, and one thing that is making it that's contributing to us clearing that content faster is the Warforging and Titan Forging system. You can just get a much higher item level now than you used to be able to when loot was static. Lucky raiders are going to have very good loot very early just because you got lucky in early Titan Forging, and obviously a Mythic guild is going to take all the people that have the best item level. Same thing with farming legendaries, so you're going in there with much better loot than we were in the past, and I'm okay if they undertuned Mythic a little bit, or undertuned Mythic Xavius a little bit, to have that race over faster, because in Warlords, in Mythic Highmaul and Mythic Foundry and whatever, guilds were using the most ridiculous, inhumane strategies to try and kill things first. Like, the race was so difficult that they were doing ridiculous things to try and get an advantage. People were running content non-stop for weeks on a whole bunch of different alts, so that they could funnel loot from multiple walkouts of that raid to their best raiders. So you would like run the raid, 10, 15, 20 times in a week instead of just the once, so that you can do it, and every raider would be required to have alts leveled up and ready to raid so that you could get like all of the loot to a couple of different people in each run, and then have your whole raid more geared within a week than you would normally be able to within one lockout. Like, that was a legit strategy that people participated in, and it was just hugely time consuming and not very healthy. And I'm okay that the race is easy enough now that those kind of tactics aren't needed and aren't encouraged, because while there's nothing you can really do to stop hardcore people from doing the most hardcore things they can to get an advantage. That's the nature of competitive gaming. But if you don't need to do those things in order to be the best, or if, the race is really over and now all the Mythic guilds are just trying to clear it kind of whenever they can, it ends up being just a little bit healthier for everything. So something was definitely lost in terms of hardcore WoW, and it's a little bit sad that the race is over so fast, but I'm fine with it. And it doesn't really affect me at all anyways, because I'm not a Mythic raider. I'm a Heroic raider, and I'm happy with that, and we're good. So, questions from this week. Edna asks, so anyways, what do you think the chances of me finding a decent guild this far into the expansion? Also, do you think Brewmaster would be a viable choice, or will people be looking for better tanks? So, if you're trying to find I think that anybody can find a guild at any point in an expansion. Guilds or a lot of guilds are always taking on new people because they're always bleeding people. People leave WoW at any time for any reason. Like, lots of people, maybe they had a baby, maybe they got married, maybe they had to sell their computer. maybe they got into a new hobby, maybe they think tennis is the coolest thing ever and they're not going to play WoW anymore. Like, people leave the game all the time. And you need people to replace people that are gone. And sometimes it's just better to have a bigger roster so that when somebody has to take a week off, you have people to fill in those spots. So I think guilds are always recruiting. What guilds aren't always doing is they're not always recruiting tanks. Typically at this point in an expansion, after a couple of weeks of raiding, guilds, they have their 2 tanks. Maybe they have a backup tank or 2. They don't need any more tanks. And you're going to have a hard time getting a main tank spot in a guild. So what I recommend, if you're trying to find a guild and you are a tank, is just get geared up for DPS. Be prepared to be accepted as a DPS that can switch to tank should one of the tanks be unable to attend. A DPS that can switch to tank is much more valuable than a tank that can't do anything else. So that's my recommendation for that. And then finding a guild, it's rough. You just got to look at forums. You got to look at your server. You got to do some research, apply to some places. I haven't been in that position for a long time, so it's hard for me to really give good advice, but I do believe guilds are still finding players. Back in Cataclysm, I joined a couple of different guilds, or at least 2, maybe it was just 1. But the way I joined was I just pugged a lot. I pugged, and then eventually I pugged into a guild that had a spot, and they really liked me, so they asked me to stay. So consistently pugging the raid, and pugging into guild groups is not a bad way to find guilds that you like, because then you get to play with them, see how they raid, before you actually join the guild, and then if they like you and you make a really good impression, you can talk to whoever's in charge about, hey, do you guys have a spot? Can I come back? So that's a good way to do it, is by pugging. Do I think Brewmaster will be a viable choice, or will be people looking for better tanks? So that's kind of dependent on what level of raiding. If you're just joining a normal raid group, there is a very good chance you can play whatever the hell you want. And if Brewmaster is fun to you and that's what you want to do, you can probably do that just fine. Of course, as long as you'd have like that Windwalker off-spec like I talked about, or maybe a Mistweaver off-spec, so that you can fulfill a different role should they not need any tanks. But if you're trying to get into a Mythic raid group, they may not be looking for Brewmasters. The state of Brewmasters right now, they can keep up with other tanks, but they have to work so much harder to get the same results. And they are just a little undertuned right now. So people would prefer to heal different people aren't specifically looking for Brewmasters. They'll take you if they're open to that, but it's not optimal. But I would just play what you want to play, find what you want to do, and then find a group that will take you. There are millions of people playing WoW. I think there's still at least millions of people playing WoW. There's a group out there somewhere with your name on it. You just gotta, persevere and find it. Jason asks, have you caught the Whelpling in Emerald Nightmare? Do you think it's worth a rare stone or in leveling up to 25? So I have caught the Emerald Whelp or the Dream Whelp rather. I've caught the Dream Whelp at the end of the Emerald Nightmare raid. For anybody unfamiliar, when you finish the raid, at the very end, there's a couple of wild pets running around. There's like 4 or 5 of them. They're Emerald Whelps, so you can catch them. Mine is rare in level 25 just because I got lucky enough to catch a rare one, and because I just level pets out of habit because all my pets are leveled anyways, and I just catch them up just because that's what I do. If you're still leveling pets, I wouldn't bother leveling it. I've looked at its abilities. It's got some interesting stuff, but nothing about the moveset of the Dream Whelp really screams at me that it's super useful. If you already have an Emerald Proto Whelp, you already have maybe a regular Emerald Whelp, I don't think you really need the Dream Whelp. I might take that back later if I'm doing pet battles and I find a fight that it just dominates on, but I don't see that being super likely, so I wouldn't put any resources into getting it maxed out, but definitely pick it up. I mean, if you're in, there's no reason not to. It doesn't cost you anything as long as you've cleared the raid and nobody else is fighting you for the Whelp spawns. A lot of my raiders didn't even care about them, so I got mine pretty easily. That's that. BJ says, I've taken a break from pet battles to level my Shadow Priest. What is the proper rotation for leveling? I die a lot when multiple mobs want to EB. Also, do they not heal anymore? So I went through this, especially on beta. I'll answer this question like backwards, I guess. Shadow Priests do heal. They do still heal. So you've got a couple of different abilities that heal you. Shadow Mend is your cast heal. So if you're at like 35% health, you want to start throwing at some Shadow Mends. You can continue Shadow Mending until your mana bar empties. So you've got a couple of them in you, probably 4 or 5 maybe. And if you're actively taking damage from mobs, there's no downside to Shadow Mending. That ticking dot that it puts on you will not hurt you if you're already being damaged by other mobs. It's kind of an either-or kind of thing. You only take dot damage from Shadow Mend if nothing is on you. So Shadow Mend is your heal. Definitely keybind that. Use it in emergencies. Don't be afraid to press that, and that will help you stay up because it's a pretty significant heal. It's a good heal. The other thing that heals you, and it's not really a heal, but Power Word Shield should absolutely be another keybind. I use that all the time. It's not a huge shield, but it's also only one global. So if you're in a position, you're doing your rotation, you're at the part where you're going to Mind Flay, you're just doing a filler, it doesn't hurt to press Shadow Word, Power Word Shield every now and then, just to kind of mitigate some of that damage and put you a little bit ahead. And then, of course, if you're spec'd into the Body and Soul talent, Power Word Shield will give you a sprint, which can also be really handy. So definitely keep that handy. The third ability that you have that you use frequently that heals you is Vampiric Touch. So that is your casted dot. You want to put that out first on mobs. I know it's really tempting to dot them up with pain first because that's not a cast time, but having Vampiric Touch ticking on multiple mobs will help keep you healed, because every time Vampiric Touch tick, I can't even talk anymore. You know what I mean. Whenever Vampiric Touch goes, it's going to heal you. So having it on 4 or 5 things, not that I recommend fighting that much, but having it on multiple mobs is going to heal you for more. So get Vampiric Touch out first, use your shield, Shadow Mend, and then Mind Bomb. That's your AoE stun. You definitely want to be using that instead of Fear. You can do that pretty often, so if you've got a bunch of stuff grouped up like that, use your Mind Bomb, and then do as much get all your Vampiric Touches out and do as much damage to them as you can. As far as your actual rotation, you want to be using Mind Blast first, followed by setting up your dots, and then you fill with Mind Flay, and that's a good point to use your Power Word Shield. Once you are at enough insanity to pop Void Form, just pop that, use Void Torrent. Use Void Torrent frequently, often, and a lot. It comes back every minute, so don't hold on to that, just like spit it out. Lots of Void Torrenting, and you want to make sure you're not... I had this problem really early on when I first started playing Shadow Priest on beta. You want to make sure you're not sitting on your insanity. It can be really easy to think of Void Form as a thing. It's like, oh, this is my big damage burst cooldown. I'm going to save this for a boss. I'm going to save this for an emergency. I'm going to save this for when I really need it. It comes back all the time. You want to do that as often as you can, and you're actively holding yourself back if you don't use it, because after you come out of Void Form, you're going to have a haste buff depending on how many stacks of Void Form you manage to rack up. So if you're never using Void Form, you're going to be running around with consistently at least like 12-15% less haste than normal, up to 30% less haste if you're getting really good Void Form. So use Void Form as often as you can. Just use it. First priority in Void Form is using Void Torrent, and then your next priority is using Void Bolt as often as you can, and then you're filling in with Mind Blast, and then refreshing your dots. Void Bolt, of course, keeps your dots up, so you want to ping Void Bolt across different targets that have your dots rolling, so you can maintain your dots across those targets. You don't want to be redotting stuff in Void Form. So hopefully that answered that question. Proper rotation for leveling, multiple mobs on E. So yeah, for multiple mobs, Mind Bomb, Vampiric Touch them all, and heal yourself with Shadow Mend if things get really bad. You can Mind Bomb and then start Shadow Mending, and it'll give you a little bit of time to catch yourself up in health. And don't pull that much stuff. I was never able to really, like at low gear levels while leveling, I capped out at like 3 things, and that was rough. So just do 1 or 2 things at a time. Don't feel like you have to dot up everything. Namien K. Hearts says, do you have any recommendations for easy to care for indoor plants with low light? Yeah, I do. So low light, first rule of thumb, if you're looking at plants, and I really like succulent plants. That's like your jade plants, your the ones with like the squishy leaves that have water in them. Because you don't have to water them that often, and watering stuff every day is really boring, so I don't like doing that. So I'll show you. Hang on. So if you're inside, if you're inside, you don't got a lot of light. You just want to plant for like the corner of your room or your living room or whatever you want. One of these guys. So you've probably seen these before. You see these a lot in shopping malls, and my light's kind of messed up because my window's open because it was in the windowsill. You see these a lot in shopping malls because shopping malls are an environment, they're indoors, they're very climate controlled, and they don't get a whole lot of natural light. Sometimes they'll have some, but it's not nearly enough as being as outside. So shopping malls love these because they're very low maintenance. You almost never need to water them, and they grow just fine in low light. It is called a snake plant, also known as mother-in-law's tongue, also known as Sansevieria. They're real cheap. You can find them at like grocery stores in the plant section. They grow pretty quickly if they're happy, but it's very hard to kill them. The easiest way to kill one of these things is watering it too much. You want to water it, I don't know, like in the winter, maybe once in the winter, like maybe every couple of months. And in the summer, when it's more light, you want to water it a little bit more often. I do mine every like other week or so. But you almost never water them. You don't really move them. They don't need that much light. If you can put it in a windowsill, it'll be happier. But it's not going to die if you can't get it any light. So these things, they're great. And the other thing that you can try, good for low light. these things. This guy's a little cuter. You can see he's a little spiky guy with like zebra stripes. This is a Haworthia. Mine's growing like he's got all sorts of little buddies popping out of him. And these guys, when I first got this one, I actually burned it because I gave it too much light. I put it outside in the sunshine, and it was like, no, take me home. I don't like it. I'm scared. I'm melting. So these ones don't like very much light at all. They'll take a little bit of light, but you don't want to put them in direct sun. So these are another one that's really good for an indoor kind of desk plant. Both of these plants will be happier with more light up to a certain point. They don't want direct sun, but if you can give them window light, that's great. But if you can't, they're going to be just fine also. And again, you don't have to water them very often. The easiest way to kill them is by watering them too much. So I'll put the names of these plants in the description so you can go and look them up if you want. But definitely best apartment plants. You'll notice they both have like the same kind of spiky spear leaf characteristic, and that's pretty consistent with plants that do well in low light. And then if you want these ones with like the yellow stripes, you're looking for a Sansevieria Trifasciata, which is like the 3 colors, and then Laurentii is the variant that has these little yellow stripes. They're very easy to find. I know it kind of screams boring mall plant, but I just love it. And it'll be your boring mall plant. And if you can give it a big enough pot, this thing had like 3 leaves when I got it maybe a year ago, and it's just filling up its pot like mad right now because it really likes its windows. So yeah, that's my answer on that. And yeah, that has been my week. If any of you have questions you would like answered on a vlog, just leave them as comments on the most recent vlog. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye!